I was blasting curators in New York one time because they would not accept Asian art. I said, you guys, these are all Jewish high art, they call it high art curator. I said, hey, I said, you gotta go back to school and learn about Asian art because we're coming, we're bringing, they always, 10 years ago, they were thinking it's folk art, coming from Europe, Yugoslavia, Philippines, folk art. I said,
You were born in Batanes? What were the instances?
Why I was there? Because my father was a congressman, and he believed in the idea of taking all the family. We were living in the city, but when it's election time, he took all of us to be back in Batanes, go to school in Batanes, and for 4 months or 6 months we were there, and then go back to the city. So we were constantly commuting, and this is like 7 children, 8 children, constantly. But he believed in the idea that we should all be together.
Your father is originally from Batanes?
Both of them.
Both of them?
They were both congressmen too. When my father was Minister of Public Works, my mother took over as congresswoman. My father was an architect also.
Okay.
Yeah. So in a way, that's where we got probably work. And also my uncle's siblings, they were all sort of love the arts.
Okay. So, you were growing up in Batanes. What was the first exposure to an idea of art?
First exposure was really when I went to graduate school in San Francisco. I never took art school when I was growing up here. No exposure to art.
But did you not go to UP?
I did, but for a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. So that's different.
So not a fine arts course in UP?
No. I'm a self-taught artist.
How did you first feel the art feelings of wanting to do art?
San Francisco. Because I was doing my graduate work
in
Masters of Arts, and then later on it became Southeast Asian history, and then I was getting into the art history. When I was doing my graduate work, I went to work for Long Mountain College, which has an art museum or art gallery, which is a very big school now. University of San Francisco had an art department. I was an assistant of the director of the art department. And one of my jobs was to look at exhibitions that are coming to the university
from
any place, Nepal or Europe, Exhibition coordinator. I was like Cora before, just looking at works, and I said, I really want to do this.
But you have not put paint to a canvas then?
Not at all. Okay. That's why my friends here, when I had a shot in Mopa, si Pacita, ang alam lang namin ang hawak niyang brush, yung hairbrush. They used to give me. Or toothbrush niya. Anong painter siya?
You never thought that you could paint?
That's why there's always very interesting. Life is so exciting because there's always a second chance.
When did you actually start to put paint on canvas?
74.
74. What?
72. I was here.
Yeah.
In Manila? No. In San Francisco, I met this guy, and we decided to hitchhike around the world, who's now my husband. For $5,000 between the two of us, we hitchhike around the world for 11 months. And that is after I finished working with this art department in San Francisco. I did that. And that's when I started sketching on the road. Wow, the things that you could see. I mean, it covered so many countries, from Turkey to Pakistan to Afghanistan, every place, Laos.
So you had a sketch pad with you?
I would put all these things in my skirt, in my blah,
What things?
I draw them and embroider them and put anything I could find. And then I said, how much can you wear? How much can you wear? Maybe I'll just sketch it. So I was just sketching. But, I wasn't sketching landscape. I wasn't sketching people. I was sketching texture, designs. That's what I was more interested. Like walls, I was sketching walls, the guts on the walls. That was what interested me more. I was sketching, these figures. I mean, that's how I gave a workshop.
You wanted to go serious.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, yeah, I love this sketching these things, but I need to know the parts of the body, you know?
Okay.
I need to know how to sketch. So for 2 years, all I did was sketch. I do anatomy and still life, anatomy and still. And then I went to New York, and I went to the Art Student League, and I did anatomy, you know, those free sketches, live free sketch, and still life. And then, but that wasn't really what I want. Even though my early works were all social realistic, about people of Bangladesh, people of Africa, or the Marcos administration when I came back. But that's so. Even now, I feel like, I feel like Zen. I'm yin yang. In my studio, I will have all abstraction. Then I will have figurative on the other side. Figurative could be, you know,
like there's a subject matter.
Like a house, yes, there's subject matter. But here it will be all fun. Probably because I'm a Libra, I don't know, you know. But I can do 2 or 3 at the same, but different things. That's my studio, you know.
So you pursued the art when you were in corporate and Art Students League,
and also traveling.
And traveling.
When I was hitchhiking.
Did you have confidence in yourself that you can show these works to the public?
The first day I started it. The first day. I had my first show in my house in Washington on 15th Street, and I was surprised. Almost all of them went.
They were sold?
Almost all of them, yeah.
Fantastic. What were these works? Abstract?
Narrative.
With subject matter?
Yes.
And who was your audience?
Anybody who wanted to buy it. People in Washington, D.C., you know.
How did you advertise your show? Were you willing to go through a period of financial difficulty?
There's always that period, because what I do with the money I get, what I do with the money I get from selling my work, it goes back to my art supplies, to do a brochure, to do a catalog, to pay for an exhibition. You know, when you're in the gallery. I mean, now I realize why Andy Warhol had a factory. You know, and all his money went back to that factory.
Exactly.
You know, I don't have a factory. It's a one-man operation. But I already realized that you are rich. You are rich in the sense that you are able to afford to buy. You're able to travel. You know, and look at works. I mean, my mother did not go to school. The highest was second year high school. But one of the things that she told us, go travel. That's the best education you have. You know.
And yet she herself was not a well-traveled woman.
She did. My father and mother, all the kids are traveling all over. You know. I mean,
fantastic.
On their own, huh? I mean, there's no. We're not rich. I'm 1 of 12. I mean, it's like division of labor. You know, you know that feeling. But we always travel. You know? I mean, look at me. I'm still going. My kind of traveling, though, Sid, is not. You know, you go to this place. My kind of traveling is Berlin to Batanes, you know, New York to Bangladesh, Yemen to Paris. You know, I like the extremes. I like things that. I like New York so much because I'm looking at galleries, I'm looking at artwork, and then I like Batanes so much because I can really work there. You know, I go to Batanes and I show it in New York. You know, I go to Yemen and I show it someplace else. You know, I go to Paris because I'm that kind of person. I like to be surrounded by sophisticated people and my kind of people.
You're energized by company like that.
Yeah. At the same time, I go to Africa and just work. The curiosity, the hunger for being curious about other culture is always in me.
You've always felt that?
Very much, yeah. I always like the idea that Yemen was a dream for me. 20 years ago, I wanted to go to Yemen.
What provoked you about Yemen?
Because of their architecture, their mud hut houses, their gamar.
The Gamaria means what?
Gamaria means the window. The window, the stained glass window.
Stained glass window.
That's what it means. Yeah.
Okay. You're lucky, Pacita, that you have a partner in life, your husband, who shares the same passion for travel and culture.
Otherwise, I won't be with him. He won't be with me. You know.
Oh yes.
You gotta have someone who can do that.
Vision.
Because if you're not, you know, what's the point of being together? Really, it won't work. You know. And it's a conscious effort on your part to choose someone like that. You know.
Because you're staying in Indonesia now?
Yeah.
When was the first time that you set foot on that place?
1984.
Okay, and what were the circumstances that you were there?
Great. Yeah. travel. I was curious about Indonesia, and we were just there for 6 weeks. And it probably works for you too, when you're in a country. When I'm in a country, I say, especially an exotic country, what could I do in 6 weeks that would represent this country? And to me, there's that moral thing at the back, that gives a moral statement. I was traveling all over.
All over.
With Jack, yeah. And then I saw the wayang puppets, no?
Okay.
Because the wayang puppets, no? Used to be like their television in the villages. They would go, these puppeteers would go in a corner. They were parang bandila, ta. And all the villagers would come to the plaza. And there was the puppeteer, and was doing his wayang. Like these characters of Arjuna and Gatotkacha, and they kept on and they were very colorful with the dress and everything. So that's what I'm going to do. So I started my wayang paintings in 1984. And then when I went there in 1993, I continued it. I was doing wayang puppets, paintings this size, 120 of them. This size, 1993, and I showed it at the National Museum in Jakarta in 1994. Good part of it is the Indonesians were critiquing me. All these old people would come and say, Arjuna was not that colorful. Napapahiya ako sa harap na, but it's so great. And besides, we don't do it that color. We only do it with batik and the earth color. Why did you use that color? They're angry, And I said, you made the mistake of the name of this particular painting. That's not Bisma. But I love the comments they said. And then they start telling me the story of, Dewi Ganga, Usirkandi, the feminist puppeteer who killed her husband, 1993 to 1996, I was really involved with puppets. I was doing puppets. And they were collecting it.
And how did Indonesian art officials get to know you or discover you? Enough for them to give you a show?
I was sponsored by the Embassy of the Philippines. I have had 3 shows, 3 in Jakarta, 2 at the National Museum, 1 at the National Gallery, the Contemporary Art Museum. And it's very seldom that you can get a show at the National even the National Museum. But they like my work, Indonesians, even though they critique it so bad. They like it. I'm saying, oh, she was the one who did textiles and putting buttons and all that. They remember, So when I have an opening, it's great. All the artists are there. They're looking. Most of the artists from Bandung, Jakarta, they come down, and come to my show, and I do a workshop, and I know that there are Bandung artists who are doing trapuntos right now. I told you, I was putting them all in my clothes up to now.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Trapunto is the word in Italy that means sew.
Trapuntere.
Trapuntere, yeah. Sew and stuff, stuff and sew. But mine is trapunto painting. Anyway, I was doing this because I had 5 women who paint. We paint together once a week, Chinese, 1 American, 1 Japanese, in Boston.
In Boston.
Yeah. And we meet once a week, and one was doing dolls, life size. And she was literally stuffing a legging, stockings of a lady to make dolls.
A legging is
stockings.
Stockings.
Yeah. And her dolls were like red grooms,
Yes,
red grooms, yeah. She has this life size. She gave me the idea of stuffing.
In Boston. In one of your regular painting sessions.
Yeah. So instead of having that kind of flat canvas, I started stuffing that thing and whatever I can get, my own clothes, and put it on. So first what I do, if you stay here, they paint first. That's like the session in the morning, they will paint, And they'll paint everything. We will paint doors today. The same is doors. Pintong Filipino.
Nice.
Yeah. So they'll paint. And then in the afternoon, it's all acrylic, So it dries fast. In the afternoon, then we will put some embellishments there's a foam at the back, and another piece of cloth, parang katsa. Sew it like quilting,
Yeah.
And then we will put whatever we can in those on top, on the surface.
How did you advertise your show?
From friends, because these are interesting. Also, of course, your friends are big supporters.
Yeah.
But I had about 15 my studio all over, open house.
Yes.
Everything went,
That's fabulous.
I know, and that's why they said, what do you have that you could affiliate with being a Filipino artist?
Yeah.
Every place I go, they ask me that. I said, my confidence in my color. I don't know, I've had that so long, for so many years. It was like, wow, it's a secret. Nobody knows that to be a painter is really a good thing to have. You know, people don't realize how great a painter. To be able to make a living out of your work is very important.